It's almost. I don't know if I say I got Celebrate Black Music Month on the banner right here. I just clicked on y'all, and we got a picture of Diddy. I don't know if I want to put Diddy as someone to celebrate Black Music Month. Just thinking about that. How y'all doing this afternoon? Let me play a little music, just a little music, as Josh, the weekend is almost over, y'all. We are speeding through. It's already June 8th. So remember, last week was the start of June. So time is flying by fast. We are halfway through the year 2025. And there is a lot that is going on and transpired this year so far. It's been a hell of a year. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting edition of Random Topics with your host with the most, myself, G Rich, G-Boo2786, ladies and gentlemen, whoever you are, wherever you are. I hope you are blessed and doing safe, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about a couple of things that's going on. Of course, the main thing I want to talk about is this mistrial motion that has been filed by Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys. That is the breaking news. It was filed on yesterday, so I want to give my little legal perspective on it. But of course, I don't know if y'all know what's going on out there in Los Angeles, where the National Guard has been called out over these ICE protests that is happening. The Mexican president, even, I'm gonna play a video. She even did a video I saw somewhere on X where she was telling Mexican families to protest what was going on. And so far, I have some video on X, so I want to show y'all a little bit of what happened. Hold up. So this is going on right now in Los Angeles. This happened earlier, so this is a clip just of what the Mexican president was stating.
Porque de ser necesario nos vamos a movilizar, porque no queremos que haya impuestos a las remesas de nuestros paisanos de Estados Unidos.
I don't know what she was saying, but someone, of course, they tweet. I don't want to misquote somebody, and they're saying the wrong thing. So this is. So supposedly this is
in the United States to Mexico.
There you.
We will mobilize because we do not want taxes on remittances from our compatriots in the United States to Mexico. Cambie tu tono, no te olvides que yo te di todo. Fueron las noches de fotos, no vi el año que loco. Todas las noches que lloras, que estando estas horas, con toda la escuadra que tú traes. Okay, you win, bitch, you're right. Take all of me, taking my breath away. Because if necessary, we will mobilize because we do not want taxes on remittances from our compatriots in the United States to Mexico.
And y'all know right now, so what's happening right now with these, so that was Claudia Sheinbaum, who was the president of Mexico. And right now, so Trump sent the National Guard out in California, and Gavin Newsom actually issued a statement calling it a breach of sovereignty, state sovereignty, with regards to Trump using the National Guard, uh, deploying the National Guard over these ICE protests. So this is going on live. This is nothing compared to what Daryl Gates would have done if he was if he was still alive. Daryl Gates would have put the hoses on those protesters. Daryl Gates was ruthless. He was a ruthless police chief, racist mug. Very bad. He would drive tanks into the homes and so forth, knocking the doors down, even with kids inside. So they said a lot of the Democratic governors, they even responded over their concern of Trump's deployment of the National Guard. Deputy Director says FBI will pursue protesters who choose violence. That was Dan Bourgeois, who's the Deputy FBI Director. He issued the warning shortly after Donald Trump said he had asked members of his cabinet to take on necessary action to liberate Los Angeles. We're going to liberate them from the protesters because they're rude. They're being rude, attacking federal agents, invading and occupying, causing insurrections. It's terrible. We can't have that. We can't have them being rude. I think they work for fake news CNN. So the president wrote, a once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attack insurrection. That's cute. And attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I'm directing the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's terrific. So y'all seen that a dispensement order. LAPD says that incident commander has declared an unlawful assembly in the area of Alameda between Temple and Aliso Street. All persons must leave the area or are subject an unlawful assembly. So a reporter said that it's now LAPD, not DHS or the Guard, forcing people back from Alameda away from MDC. A lot of people are running onto the adjacent metro lines to get away from less lethal launcher weapons. Very dangerous situation. So yeah, they got a lot of trouble going on in LA. Speaking of which, let's say shout out to, so we're going to, yeah, so I wanted to talk about that just a little bit because they got, a lot going on. So Newsom made a formal request here. And I mean, Gavin Newsom's, ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, his career has been shot. But he, of course, is going to go against anything that Donald Trump is for. The Democrats are always going to be against it. They're always going to push against it, no matter what. They're going to push back. They don't stand for that. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into what I want to talk about. Tonight, we are discussing essentially what's happening in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. And I'm not going to be long with it. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, my family on X, if you're on Rumble, if you're watching via Rumble or don't have a Rumble subscription, make sure you subscribe to Random Topics, ladies and gentlemen, for all our news. And I'm going to give you a Black Music Month moment today as well. I'm going to put this on YouTube. So today we are going to be, tomorrow they got the BET Awards. Isn't that in Los Angeles? Oh, I call it the EBT. They got the EBT awards tomorrow. Yeah, I stopped watching it. I don't really care about that. I'm not going to even watch it. But our Black Music Month, sorry guys, I got sidetracked for a minute. So our Black Music Month moment, we are saluting this week. Of course, last week was Founders Week because I did the uh, owners, the black people, black owners and operators of record labels, music publishing companies. So today I'm doing singer and songwriters in their own right, those who have made a dynamic impact on our community, on music world. And today we honor none other than the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. And Queen Aretha Franklin, who was of course, she was a Detroit native, although she was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1942. Uh, she is known, obviously, for her soulful voice on many hits, including Respect, Think, uh, Never Loved a Man the Way That I Have Loved You, Natural Woman, uh, Daydreaming, one of my favorites. I love my personal favorite, probably is Until You Come Back to Me. That was a song written by Stevie Wonder, actually. Stevie Wonder had actually written that a couple of other songwriters in the 60s before Aretha Franklin took it in 1972 and made a hit out of it. Uh, but she was a songwriter in her own right. Of course, being a gospel singer, that's how she started because her father was C.L. Franklin, who was the pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church up in Detroit. And she actually was so great. She was a piano player. Even as a young child, she learned how to play the piano and master it. That she signed originally with Columbia Records. And although she released, I believe, or three albums with Columbia, she did not achieve any mainstream success until she did went to Atlantic in 1966. So she was at Columbia for at least 6 years, and believe it or not, so now she's in Detroit. I was just reading this. This is the first time I found out Berry Gordy had actually offered Aretha the opportunity to come to Motown to sign with his Tamla label, but her father, who was managing her at the time, declined to do so. So she and I did yesterday. I did a tribute to Clyde Otis. Clyde Otis was the founder of his own music publishing company. He was also the first black A&R executive at a major label, Mercury Records. He actually produced several of Aretha's songs for Columbia. Some of her recordings, which she used to do even jazz and she did blues. But Aretha switched it up and she went to Atlantic and she even worked with her sister. So in 1967, she released the song I Never Loved a Man the Way I Loved You, which was a big hit for her. At that time, she was managed by Ted White, who was her husband. And she married him at a very young age, too, by the way. Had one son with him. I heard from what I knew, Ted was a pimp. But she also rewrote the lyrics to Otis Redding's Respect, which really set her apart from everybody else. That song became an anthem, especially for the civil rights movement, but in particular for women's rights movement. But you know, Otis Redding couldn't get the song back afterwards. So she said, "Think." She had "Think Ain't No Way," which was written by her sister Carolyn. Uh, I like "Think." I also love "Daydreaming," which is a song that she wrote. She also wrote "Call Me," which was a hit. "Rock Steady," yeah. She had a number of hits. Of course, she eventually would go even to after she left Columbia, she would go to Atlantic and then Arista. From Atlantic to Arista Records, and in the '80s, she had a song, hit songs like that. Even an album that she had produced by none other than Luther Vandross, the "Jump to It" album, which was her first in time in 7 years. She got a gold record. "Jump to It," "Get It Right." Yeah, that was produced by Luther Vandross. And then she actually did next album to do a younger sound. She did "Who's Zooming Who," which was her first Arista album to be certified platinum with "Freeway of Love." Uh, she had "Jumpin' Jack Flash." "I Knew You Were Waiting for Me." That was a international number one that she had with George Michael. But she ended up singing the theme song for me from A Different World. That's actually one of the first places I recognized as a little boy the Queen. That voice, yeah, she did that sang the theme song. Yeah, I love that version. So, of course, in 2018, sadly, Miss Franklin had been battling with prostate cancer. I said prostate. Lord, she didn't have that. Wrong. I'm sorry. She had been pancreatic cancer. That's what I meant to say. I wasn't gonna give her a prostate. No, no, no. This is not. This is Aretha, not Medea. Yeah, she was battling pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, which was the cause of her death. And she people noticed around the time of 2017, 2016, Aretha was losing a lot of weight and looked ill, but she had been battling cancer, and she passed away on August 16th, 2018, in her home. While she was surrounded by friends who visited her, including Stevie Wonder, Jesse Jackson, Glenn Turman, who was her ex-husband, who's also on A Different World. They were married in 1978, 79, only married for about 5 or 6 years, and they all paid tribute to her. So, uh, the Queen of Soul for a reason. She touched so many lives, and she's one of the best-selling artists of all time, selling over 75 million albums. So, a shout out to the Queen of Soul. Y'all play respect for her, or think. That's another one. But we're gonna miss the Queen. We still miss her. She's one of the best. All right, that's my black music moment. I want to get that one out of Queen Aretha Franklin. So let's talk, y'all, about this thing that's going on with Diddy, with this mistrial. Now, my sister, shout out to Queen Amadaya Shakur. I spoke on the phone with her earlier this afternoon, and she was actually out there at the court hearing. And for me having my talks with the Queen, y'all know how she feels about Diddy. We've talked about it back and forth, but even she thinks this whole trial. I'm just talking with her. Even she thinks this trial was a mess, and I said it from the beginning because I did not like. I don't like it when the government plays unfair and cheats. That is not what government is supposed to do. So, what they're being accused of, essentially, the Diddy's defense team on Saturday filed a motion for a mistrial. Now, this is the second attempt for a mistrial that the defense has requested because a couple of weeks ago, I believe, a Los Angeles detective had testified, and it was in regards to some fingerprints that seemed to have been missing, or some source evidence that was destroyed or tampered with in some way, that the prosecutors tried to imply Diddy had done, which the defense attorneys moved for an immediate mistrial, which the judge ended up denying. But I believe he instructed the jury to disregard the question. But for a second time, and you can see the article here, and I will actually show you a copy of the letter. The defense has moved for a mistrial against citing prosecutorial misconduct against defense attorney Alexander Shapiro, wrote to Judge Aaron Subramanian on Saturday to insist this case, which could see Combs behind bars for the rest of his life if he were convicted, should go no further. She said, quote, "In this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Brianna Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment in September 2016. Now, Shapiro correspondence stated with references to Bongolan's height in relation to Bad Boy Records founder and to apparent inconsistencies in the testimony this past week by the good friend of Cassie Ventura. Accordingly, to avoid an unfair conviction in this case, the court should grant a mistrial." Now, there are some things you should note about Brianna Bordelon. From what I'm understanding, she was not only Cassie's ex, but Cassie's best friend, but I'm also understanding that she also had some type of intimate relationship with Sean Combs. So that's some sort of friend, to have a relationship with your best friend's man. On top of that, she also, from what was said in the testimony, she was also a drug pusher for Cassie. That's what I've read, and that's the information that was given to me in the testimony that came out. Now, I don't want to misquote anything, but that she was given immunity. She was given immunity to in this case, and also she was given immunity, and the defense attorneys even brought this up on direct examination. Now, excuse me 1 second. Why is this coming up? Hold on, let me play a little music for y'all while y'all waiting. I'm wondering why. Okay. So I'm going to pull up, I have the letter here so everybody understands what's going on. The letter I'm trying to pull the letter up, y'all, and it looks like in order for me to pull it up, and I hate when this is done when I'm on, I'm gonna have to shit. Basically, what I'm gonna have to do is, okay, so I got it here. All right, this is better. I could just do it this way. So I'm gonna stop the article and we're gonna look at the letter. So this is what the letter is stating, and I'm gonna give you my take on it. Why I think Diddy has a good chance of getting this reversed. So the defense so they filed this on Saturday, and you can see here he's requesting a renewal motion for a mistrial. She's requesting, I should say. So They start off by saying, I want to mute the music now because this is important so y'all can hear me. She says the defense requests respectfully submits this letter to renew of its renewed motion for a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. She says, quote, when the introduction of perjured testimony results in a criminal conviction and the prosecution knew or should have known the perjury, the conviction must be set aside if there is any reasonable likelihood that the false testimony could have affected the judgment of the jury, quoting several criminal cases, federal cases such as United States versus Wallace and United States versus Walters. Moreover, the prosecutor's knowing use of perjured testimony could violate the due process clause even if it only undermines a witness's credibility. Now, they have these articles in quotes. Now, this is the Court of Appeals up there is the Second Circuit of the Southern District of, so the Southern District of New York is the district court, and the Court of Appeals there would be the Second District, if I'm not mistaken. And rightfully so, she cites if the Second Circuit with these because that is the mandatory uh, Court of Appeals. That is the mandatory. That's a mandatory ruling. Is if it were supervisory, I should say. Whereas the other term I want to say, which it would either be discretionary or influential, in would be influential, would be if it were outside of that district. So, if you understand, give a thumbs up. So by that, they go in and she goes further, citing the Supreme Court of the United States, a lie is a lie, no matter what its subject, and if it is in any way relevant to the case, the district attorney has the responsibility and the duty to correct what he knows to be false and to elicit the truth. Citing Napier versus Illinois, that's the United States Supreme Court decision 360 U.S. 264 269 70. As explained below in this trial, the government has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false related to its allegation that Mr. Combs dangled Brianna Bongolan from the balcony of Cassie Ventura's apartment. Now, the reason why the defense is stating there should be a mistrial and why this is false is because it is defense contention that Sean Diddy Combs was not in Los Angeles at the time of the incident. Rather, they had evidence in exhibits that were shown to the jury and to Ms. Bongolan on the witness stand that he was in New York during the Bad Boy tour, or Bad Boy reunion tour, and was actually staying at Trump International Hotel in New York. And there was not only a calendar showing the tour being in the month of September, I believe that last week, but they had receipts, especially of the dates that Diddy was inside the hotel because they could show the receipts. They could show he was eating dinner with things he ordered. And they even asked Miss Bongolan on the witness stand, you know that it is impossible for a person not to be, isn't it impossible for a person, essentially I'm paraphrasing, to be two places at the same time? So they're contending the government is allowing perjured testimony in, and they had a duty to disclose this to the court, and not only disclose, but if they knew it was going to be perjured testimony and not truthful, they had a duty not to even have Ms. Bongolan on the witness stand, which goes to our professional code of conduct because, ladies and gentlemen, attorneys are not only representatives and advocates for their clients. First and foremost, they are officers of the court. And attorneys, under the professional rules of responsibility, they owe a duty of candor to the court at all times. This is not Gavin Richard's opinion. This is a fact as a lawyer that we are supposed to be honest and upfront in a way not to deceive the court. Now, of course, as a defense attorney, I don't have a duty to disclose confidential information between me and my client. But if I had suspected a reason to know that my client was lying, and it got on the witness stand, that is not covered. Perjury is not covered necessarily by attorney-client privilege. It's not. If I knew that, which is why some defense attorneys, when they ask their clients about testifying or their clients want to insist, sometimes you have to say no if you're going to know that they're not going to be entirely truthful or truthful at all. And so what they're stating is that the government wants to show the balcony incident as relevant because it shows Mr. Combs' violence not only directed to Ms. Ventura, but people around Ms. Ventura, and citing that it goes to coercion because of her awareness. So they're showing this, and they're putting, as the defense states, contends, in an extremely negative light, and it's an angry and dangerous man who terrified Ms. Ventura. Prosecutors elicited evidence about the allegation Ms. Ventura and Ms. Bungalan that is demonstrably false in key respects. They then doubled down using this false testimony to obtain a ruling admitting inadmissible hearsay evidence about it as well, and to present a false narrative to the jury. The government started by eliciting testimony from Ms. Ventura about the allegation that cannot be true. Ms. Ventura stated she actually saw Mr. Combs holding Miss Bungalan over the balcony railing. So you see, they have transcript 802. I saw him bring her back over the railing of the balcony and then throw onto the patio furniture. Yet the prosecutors knew she had not actually seen what had she described because they had in their possession. So this is where they can't claim they had no knowledge of it, because if they had evidence showing this, they had a text message conversation between Miss Ventura, was told about the alleged incident from another person. So her testimony, Cassie's testimony, is that she saw Combs do this. However, the defense attorneys are saying you had text messages showing she was told this rather. So there's a difference between being given, you actually witnessing what happened versus you being told as to what happened. So if the government had that text message and they knew Cassie said something that was false, they had a duty to notify the court immediately that was false. Because remember, prosecutors, it's their case in chief. This is their star witness. They give direct examination. So they prep their witnesses normally with the questions. They go over this before they get them on the witness stand. There's a coordinator, and I know this from firsthand experience, that will talk to the witnesses before they even go to trial to try and get out the information, to understand everything. So she persisted in her story even after she was confronted by the text messages, confronted by the defense. They said, "Isn't it true that you learned about this incident on the balcony after the fact?" To which she responded, "I saw what I saw, so I don't know." Has the government, in your preparation for your testimony in this case, gone over this message with you? She said, "Not this one, no." So the government left the jury with the false impression that Miss Ventura saw Mr. Combs dangle her friend over the balcony, and this made her feel fearful of him, when in fact, if there was any incident, Ventura really heard about it afterwards, considerably lessening any probative value as to her state of mind. Next, the government doubled down by presenting perjured testimony from Bungalan intended to corroborate Ventura's false testimony. Bungalan claimed Combs lifted her up and held her by feet over the balcony, and this caused the injuries to her back, leg, the back of her leg, her back, and also neck pain. Bungalan was very definitive about these injuries, and particularly the bruise to her leg, which was one of the details that stuck out of her mind. So this is a transcript. They're saying about the questions about where she went after you. Did you go to Cass after you left Cassie's apartment? She went to her apartment. I was shaking a lot. I wanted to take a shower because I felt disgusted. Then I looked over my behind my leg and I saw a huge bruise. We'll talk about it now. We'll talk about the bruise in just a moment, Miss Bongolan. But do you remember all the details of the incident that night? No. No. Do the details you've talked about stick out in your mind? She says yes. And she mentions the physical injuries. They asked her about this, and she said she had a big bruise. It was like piercing in the middle of it, and she had back and neck pain. And the government introduced photos claiming that they happened at the sands of Diddy, and the photo was taken on September 26, 2016 at 9:45 a.m. So this is key here. So you're talking about a photo depicting a leg injury. Now, bear in mind, bruises can last for days. So the lawsuit that she filed, if I'm not mistaken, states that it happened some on or about. Now, this is key because on or about necessarily, while it doesn't necessarily mean the exact date, well, attorneys, we just usually say on or about because it was around that time, right? So the government knew, I should have known, the testimony was perjured because they introduced photographs of the injuries supposedly sustained at the hands of Diddy, right? But then when you looked at when they stated it happened in the early morning hours of September 26th or even the day before, they said the government knew all along that Mr. Combs was on the East Coast in, let's say, late September, and specifically around the time of this alleged incident. The government knew he had stayed at Trump Hotel in New York City between September 24th and September 29th of 2016. So they had those records marked as GX7Y 111. So this is in evidence. So when you introduce something into evidence, it's going to be considered and taken into consideration by the jury. So they went further. She says that when the defense tried to expose the perjury on cross examination, the prosecutors repeatedly attempted to disrupt the cross with unfounded objections and requests for sidebars, and unfounded claims, such as the proper leading question meant defense counsel was testifying. And then, despite having elicited Ventura's false testimony about having directly witnessed the alleged incident, they persuaded the court to admit the hearsay text messages with Coram describing what Ventura had found out from somebody else, despite having elicited perjured testimony from Ventura claiming she saw the alleged conduct. All of this was highly improper and exasperated the harm caused by suborning the perjured testimony. She says that this is just one example. This perjured testimony is not the only example of the use of this perjured testimony, is not the only example of prosecutorial misconduct during the trial. The defense previously moved for a mistrial based on an improper line of questioning regarding the destruction. So this is what I'm talking about Kid Cudi's car being firebombed, related to the 2012 destruction of fingerprints. The court will recall the defense argued that the government's motive in eliciting the testimony was to create an unfounded and highly prejudicial influence, that Diddy was supposedly responsible for its destruction. They claimed that was not the purpose of it, and the court instructed a narrow limiting of questions. However, what they're saying, the testimony after that of Mia, the very next day, that in fact the government's motive all along was to suggest that Mr. Combs had corrupt influence over Los Angeles authorities when it tried to create the impression that he was responsible for the destruction of fingerprints. Specifically, the government elicited testimony from Mia about two incidents in which the LAPD did not issue a ticket for speeding after she was pulled over because the officers found out she worked for Mr. Combs. In one case, Mia got pulled over speeding, name dropped that her boss was Mr. Combs, and got him on the phone. After which was the officer was saying like, "Oh my God, Puff Daddy, I love you. Just like went into the whole very excited conversation, and then she let me go." So and they even have the link if you see here of the reunion tour. Now, very interesting about that reunion tour. Uh, I've been to Essence Fest that year. That was the year that Prince passed away, and they did a whole tribute in 2016 to Prince those nights. So I went to all 3 nights for Essence Fest that time, guys. Did y'all know that Diddy, the Bad Boys reunion, was also on the New Orleans tour at Essence Fest? They came that Sunday night. So I remember going to that. That was 10 years ago. It's hard to believe. I remember going to that concert in 2016 with Diddy. It was Diddy. It was Andre Day, Kendrick Lamar. So that Sunday was all hip hop. And then the Saturday before that, they had Mariah Carey and Charlie Wilson. And I can't think of who the other acts were. And then this is in 2016. And before that, I think they had like Babyface and Babyface, I think New Edition, and a few others. So that was a trip. But what say y'all, ladies and gentlemen? So I think Diddy he might have a shot at getting this thing overturned. He might have a shot, and when I said, well, not overturned, if it's not granted, he certainly has a chance on appeal, if he were convicted, to get this overturned. I just believe, based off what I have seen, this judge, very similar to the judge in the Bill Cosby case, uh, things have gotten out of control with the prosecutors, with that program. Uh, I think it's a travesty. If he does not grant this based off the information that I've seen that has been presented, then I really think he's trying to, this is my opinion, I think he's trying to tip the scales. I don't want, I, my opinion, I'm not up in New York, so I can say it, I can give my opinion. Uh, I really believe that there are, and I'm not defending Sean Diddy Combs. I think Diddy is garbage. I thought his music was shit, even as a kid. I thought he was more like a hype. I didn't see Diddy no more than a hype man. I thought he was an overglorified hype man. That's why, and I don't want to say your boy, Suge Knight called him out at the Source Awards because he's all on the video, all on the record. Yeah, I see a lot of that. So I saw a lot of that. Nevertheless, yeah, Diddy had a profound impact. I mean, on pop culture in the early. People forget in the early 2000s, this guy was everywhere. Diddy was on. He was in movies. He had the Bad Boys for Life song. He had obviously in the 90s when they had the East Coast West Coast thing, the rivalry there. He was in everybody's music video, the Busta Rhymes song, Pastor Cavossier. Yeah, I remember all of that. Well, 50 Cent, supposedly, it's been brought out that supposedly the reason 50 and Diddy never liked each other, but I believe one of the testifying witnesses is actually from, and this has already came out, is Diddy's ex. Is 50 Cent's ex was messing with Diddy afterwards, so he got his sloppy seconds. So yeah, they didn't like that. That whole thing is a mess, man. But do y'all think a hype man billionaire? He was a club owner. You forget he was also a dancer. That's how he got his start in the record business. He was working with Stacey Lattishaw on some dance moves on her video, if y'all remember. That's how Combs came into that. But getting to this thing, I really feel so. This is nothing more. This whole thing has been. This whole thing has been a circus. I have not seen, and you're absolutely right, Cheryl. I haven't seen a RICO. I've seen domestic violence. I've seen assault and battery, possession of drugs. I get all of that. I haven't seen anything that relates to racketeering. I, how did he finance if he was doing all of this trafficking? Was he making any monies from this? So they haven't introduced anything like that. No finances. Yeah, they showed he owned Bad Boy Records and his financing and so forth. But how does that relate to a RICO? Again, I don't think the guy is a nice guy, but that's not how we base our laws. They're not based off whether you're good or bad. It's not morals court. That's not what this is. If you want that, go to the Catholic Church about that, whether you're morally right or not. We are talking about whether he broke the law. Trafficking, well, did any of these women, they had, the people that were there, not just women, but men, they were paid, they were brought back. So it's not kidnapping. I haven't seen it. Spirit asks, can they go after him if there's a mistrial? It depends. If it's a mistrial with prejudice, no. If it's not granted with prejudice, they can refile it. But I think the problem they will have with refiling it with the same thing, they would need Cassie to testify all over again. They would need their witnesses. If this person is going to be, and it seemed like they tried to get her and show him as having a propensity to violence, they would have to get her again to testify. But she gave perjured testimony. If the judge declared it's perjured, she's given perjured testimony, her credibility is shot. They can't have her retestify. If they found out, and you have to keep in mind, both her and Cassie supposedly were comparing notes with each other, because Brianna Bougalon has a lawsuit against Diddy for $10 million. Cassie, she settled for $30 million. A settlement isn't an admission of guilt, but they settled just so that they could get the case resolved. And when y'all listening to the news, guys, you got to remember, even podcasters, they have their own agenda and things that they want. Listen to the podcast with Soul. He seems not, I don't think, he said he's not for Diddy, he's not for the state, but he's unbiased. But mostly it has been, if you want to say it's pro Diddy, I think he's tried to call it fair down the middle from what he's seen. Some of these other people, they're calling it because they don't like Diddy. That's what I've heard. That's what I've seen. The Art of Dialogue, and I think Ty Tales, who they said was the one who violated the judge's order about who the Jane Doe was on court a couple of days ago. Yeah, they won't let that stuff in. All right. So yeah, this case, I really think the case is gonna get overturned. But yeah, watch, got brothers like the podcast, the Soul. He's actually pretty good, and I think unbiased. I'll just play. I don't want to play his stuff and get struck, but y'all could go here because he's been doing everything on this case. He's been on it. Shout out to Queen Amadaya Shakur as well. She's a good friend, but they definitely can. I don't know if they would want to try and retry this thing again if a mistrial is granted. And if it's denied, of course, they preserve the record on appeal. But I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to do this. Try this again because This will be cost a lot of money to retry this case. But what say y'all, ladies and gentlemen? What do y'all think will happen? That's just my 2 cents. I think there certainly is grounds for Diddy on this mistrial. We'll see what happens tomorrow morning. I'm sure the judge is gonna has to make a decision on it. I doubt, is my opinion, I doubt he will grant it, just based off what it's going. But if he did, stranger things have happened in court. All right. So y'all be safe and be blessed. We will get up out of here in a minute. We're gonna go wrap this thing up. Be one, be safe, and be blessed. Please, 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 as y'all know, the channel's not monetized. If you love me for my time, you pay me for my time. You can drop something in the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. We appreciate you. Go to Random Topics on Rumble. As you know, the goal is to move away from ScrewTube. And I will see you all in the next one. Be one, be safe, and be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll holla. Peace. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.